Hey, Fred, how's it going? Okay. We're good. Yeah. We can do it.
How are you? One more minute, Mayor. One more minute. 11.3. Yeah. No, it's 11.3. Oh my gosh. We're not Anaheim. We're not San Jose. Oh, thank you so much.
Okay. Everyone, it's 6 o'clock. I'd like to get started and call this meeting of June 20th, 2022 to order. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, led by Councilmember Romagnos.
If everyone could stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, if you could remain standing, please. We have an invocation by Trevor Van Laar with Gilray Presbyterian Church.
Thank you so much. Father in heaven, we invite you to guide and witness over this meeting. As these city officials discuss civic matters, even if we have different opinions, please grant us the unity of spirit. Help us to each listen and consider others as they share their points of view. Help us to work as a unified team, combining ideas for a greater outcome. Please help us work as a whole rather than as individuals, trying to promote our own agendas. May we have a spirit of camaraderie in this room and work together on our shared mission. Father, please bless our docket this evening for both the mundane and the exciting items, and help our officials to make wise decisions. In your name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to remind everyone that there are several opportunities to speak on tonight's agenda, whether you're speaking on an agenda item or something that's not on the agenda. If you're intending to speak, if you would please fill out a yellow speaker card and hand it to the city clerk. That way we can manage and plan for the number of people that wish to speak. And also, when it is close to your time to speak, if you would come up into the front rows, so we could do that. All right, City Clerk's report on posting the agenda.
Yes, Madam Mayor. The agenda was posted on Thursday, June 16th at 7:30 p.m. It was later amended on Friday, June 17th at 12 p.m.
Thank you, and roll call.
Councilmember Almerderis? Here. Councilmember Bracco? Here. Councilmember Hilton?
Here.
Councilmember Leader Munoz?
Present.
Councilmember Marks is absent. Councilmember Tovar?
Here.
And Mayor Blankley.
Here. And Councilmember Marks asked me to let everyone know that she is absent because she tested positive for COVID after a trip that she took. Okay. Under orders of the day, I would like everyone to know that we will adjourn in celebration of Juneteenth. All right. Item 1.3, employee introductions. We have none. Under item 2, all the fun begins now. All right. I've got a couple of proclamations to read and then some retirements. So the first proclamation, whereas the city of Gilroy joins cities and counties throughout California in promoting July as Parks Make Life Better Month, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes physical, emotional, and mental health and wellness through organized and self-directed fitness, play, and activity, and whereas Parks and Recreation creates memorable experiences through youth sports and enrichment activities, teen centers and programs, senior activity centers, adult fitness and enrichment programs, free community events, and beyond. And whereas Parks and Recreation fosters social cohesiveness in communities by celebrating diversity, providing spaces to come together peacefully, modeling compassion, promoting social equity, connecting social networks, and ensuring all people have access to its benefits. And whereas Parks and Recreation supports safe, vibrant, attractive, progressive communities that make life better through positive alternatives offered in their recreational opportunities. Now, therefore, I, Marie Blankley, Mayor of the City of Gilroy, on this 20th day of June, 2022, along with my colleagues on the City Council, do hereby proclaim July 2022 as Parks Make Life Better Month. And with that, is Adam, are you going to come and accept? Okay. Okay, and our second proclamation is for the 50th anniversary of Title IX. Whereas Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972 prohibits sex discrimination in all areas of education, protecting students and staff of engineering majors and 19% of computer science majors are women, and the rate of women's enrollment in certain non-traditional careers remains at low levels, with some fields well below 25% in women's representation. And whereas Title IX protects students' civil rights, now therefore, I, Marie Blankley, Mayor of the City of Gilroy, together with the City Council, do hereby proclaim Monday, June 20th, 2022, as the 50th anniversary of Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972. And I believe we have the president of AAUW here to accept honor. Thank you. All right. Okay, on to retirements. I think everybody is here, so I'm going to start with what I think is in alphabetical order. I might be missing one. Okay, this one's for Randy Decker. All right. Whereas Randy Decker has well served the City of Gilroy for 26 years, having begun his career in 1996, he served the community through dedication, compassion, and commitment to helping all in need. And whereas Randy's skills as a fire captain, EOC coordinator, and EMT have helped the city prepare for and manage many emergencies over the years. And whereas Randy has made significant contributions to the city as it relates to all types of emergency response. This unwavering service and dedication was done with the needs of this community well above his own, and with a servant heart in full knowledge of the tremendous risk to himself. And whereas Randy is retiring from the position of fire captain with the sincere gratitude and appreciation of the Gilray City Council for his years of dedicated public service. And whereas Randy's positive impact to those he worked with and those he served will live on. Now, therefore, I, Marie Blankley, Mayor of the City of Gilroy, and on behalf of the City Council, the citizens and employees of Gilroy, join in thanking Randy Decker for his commitment of service and wish him well in retirement for years to come. So, Randy, you want to come on up?
I'll just say, wow, it's been such an honor to serve the people of Gilroy for the past 28 years. It's been an incredible journey. I've enjoyed every single bit of it, and I think we've been able to make a real difference out there in a lot of people's lives. And I just want to thank you all for that opportunity.
All right. This one is for Tracy Kester. Whereas Tracy Kester has served the City of Gilroy for 17 and 1/2 years as a recreation leader in the Recreation Division, retiring on June 10th, 2022. And whereas Tracy has assigned to lead participants with special needs in recreational activities. These activities included fitness, cooking, art, field trips, and special events. And whereas Tracy brought pride, passion, and invaluable experience while serving Gilroy's adaptive population, she created a friendly, non-judgmental environment that allowed for positive social interactions. And whereas Tracy's participants and their families appreciated her hard work and dedication to the program, in turn, these families raised and donated thousands of dollars to support the adaptive recreation program. And whereas Tracy organized the annual Fishability event that brings together adaptive participants and members of the Gilray Sportsman Chefs Association who teach participants how to fish. 100 adaptive youth and adults participated in 2022. And whereas Tracy has been a reliable and valuable employee of the City of Gilroy, demonstrating excellence in teamwork, leadership, collaboration, and customer service, while maintaining a good nature and delivering positive results for the residents of Gilroy. Now, therefore, I, Marie Blankley, Mayor of the City of Gilroy, and along with my colleagues on the City Council and the citizens and employees of Gilroy, join in thanking Tracy Kester for her commitment of service and wish her well in retirement for years to come.
Thank you, everyone.
Any? That's it?
It's just been an honor to be able to help and provide for the community of Gilroy. Thank you.
Okay, Nestor. Yeah. Whereas Nestor Canonis has served the city of Gilroy and the Gilroy community for over 27 years, and whereas Nestor began his career as a Merced County deputy and transferred to the Gilroy Police Department in 1994, and whereas Nestor served as a patrol officer, canine officer, rifle team officer, motor officer and instructor, traffic officer, and as a member of the major accident investigations team. I remember the traffic officer part. Whereas Nestor has dedicated himself to the highest standards of professionalism and excellence as an officer with the Gilroy Police Department, and whereas on June 2nd, 2022, Officer Nestor Canonis retired from the Gilroy Police Department with a sincere gratitude and appreciation of the Gilroy City Council for his years of dedicated public service to our fine city. Now, therefore, I, Marie Blankley, Mayor of the City of Gilroy, and on behalf of the City Council, the citizens and employees of Gilroy, join in thanking Nestor Canonis for his commitment of service and wish him well in retirement for years to come.
Now, I just got to say, when you're doing something that you truly love and enjoy, time flies by. And it was really effortless to show up to work, and I enjoyed working for the city of Gilroy and the community. And thank you. And the great people that I worked for at the department. It just made it easy to come to work. Thank you.
Okay. That concludes the fun of the evening. No, just kidding. Thanks. All right, everyone. We're moving on to agenda item 3.1. And congratulations to all. Thank you. Okay, commissioner interviews. Do we have commissioners present?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I at least
Okay.
have one commissioner applicant. That will be Jessica Irwin. I just want to confirm if Mr. Diego Martinez is here.
Okay. Okay, Jessica, will you come? There is she. Okay. If you don't mind, yeah, just sitting in the front row would be, or, yeah, she could even go to the podium, yes? Why not? Because it's just one. All right, thank you.
All right, interrogation begin.
Yeah, no. Let me first announce the agenda item. So we are interviewing, we have one seat open on the Open Government Commission. We actually, for the public, we also have a seat open on Arts and Culture, Parks and Recreation, and 2 on the Physically Challenged Board of Appeals. So if anyone is interested, please contact the city clerk. What we have tonight, we received 2 applications in this process, and they were both for the Open Government Commission, where there is 1 seat. So Jessica Irwin is here to join us for tonight, interviewing for this 1 seat. Thank you very much for applying and for being here. And I think I would like to just ask you to take a minute or 2, very short, if you would like to just, we all have your application. Just say a little bit about whatever it is most important to you that we hear. And then I'm going to ask the question afterwards. What does, this is the Open Government Commission, what does that commission mean to you?
Sure.
Okay.
So I've been a resident of Gilroy for 2 years and 1 day now. It was really fun moving here in the middle of a pandemic, let me tell you. That was a life adventure I hadn't planned for. And as someone who lives in this city, I know all of the really hard work that goes into making things move and function and go, from getting, our water tested, to getting our trash collected. And I see lots and lots of folks do things to make our community work. But ultimately, when I think about what I do at work, where I also work with lots of infrastructure and data and security, I think about how invisible some of those things are and how important it is to really be able to demonstrate progress and results and motion and things that you've really achieved after years and years of hard work. This has been a fantastic community. It's such a beautiful, special place. And for me, specifically, I really think it's important to make sure when you're doing great work, you know how to present it, to share it, to talk about it. And I think it's really important to make all of the work that goes into running a city and an agricultural city, much less, really sing and be vibrant, because without that, it's hard to encourage others to be excited about participating and being a bigger part of the city. So that's really something that I care about, and I have a huge calling too.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your interest. Okay, so this is the Open Government Commission. So what does open government mean to you?
To me, at work, I deal with a lot of data. I deal with a lot of policy. I deal with all kinds of decisions that impact tons and tons of people. And when I think about open government and I work in open source technology, I think, oh, this is an opportunity to talk and to show and to demonstrate when we do things that matter. Whether it's we put up 20 new stop signs and we have fewer collisions, whether it's, hey, we finally got that roundabout on 152 and it's magical. Being able to show data, to be able to make important decisions about what we've achieved and talk about it the right way, which can be difficult, is really, really important. And we have to do more of that so that people want to join in the work.
Thank you. All right, council members, does anyone have a particular question? No? Okay. Then thank you. Thank you for applying. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing all that with us.
Thank you.
Very much appreciated. All right. Okay. Sorry. All right. Item 4, presentations to the council. So this is 4.1, presentation by Frontier Communications concerning Gilroy fiber optic upgrades. These are not upgrades by the city of Gilroy. These are upgrades by Frontier Communications, and I think Doug McAllister is here to give us a brief presentation on what's been going on.
Very good. Thank you very much, Council, Madam Mayor, for allowing me this time to kind of present what's coming your way here. I have to say before I start, having sat, Madam Mayor, in your seat for many years, tasked with running meetings, my hat's off to you. It's been fun to watch. Once again, my name is Doug McAllister. I'm the Vice President for External Affairs for Frontier Communications. And I'm making the tour around California right now to introduce to city councils and city managers what's coming your way. I'm going to try to do this in a very abbreviated fashion here. The short version here is that we're bringing fiber optic. Any place we had our copper before, we're changing to fiber optic cabling. And speeds that we're able to provide to your citizens. First of all, it's 500 up and down. These are symmetrical speeds. It's not 500 down and 200. It's all the same. We also have a 1 gig offering, and then 2 gigs for anybody who wants 2 gigs. I don't know what they use it for, but that's what we're doing there. For your city there, I won't go into all the details, but just about anywhere that you see. In that purple area there is roughly your city. Anything with the red, green, other lines in the city as well as outside your city, that's where we are going with the fiber there. It's mostly about 50% of it that you see here is within the city, 50% is outside the city. It's mostly, I'm trying to remember here, let me see that here. Yeah, it's about 55% fiber placement in existing duct, which means we're not going to have to mess up your streets for that. So it's a rather ambitious build, but there's a reason for that. I'll explain that here in a second. How does fiber broadband impact communities? I want to just hit number 1 and 2, maybe number 4 there. First of all, it's 100% fiber. fiber from our central office to the customer's house. This is not fiber from the central office to a neighborhood and then it goes back to copper. This goes all the way to the house. And this is what allows us to keep the speeds consistent. It allows us to keep the service consistent. Copper gets wet, it stops working. You don't have that consistency. Fiber, you don't have that issue at all. What's nice about this is it's a one and done. Once it's in, we don't have to go back and replace the fiber ever again. If we want to go to 10 gigs, we change the light. If we want to go to 25 gigs, we change the light. That's all the central office. And so this is a one and done that keeps you at the cutting edge of technology all the way through. And the fourth thing down there, high-speed internet, Frontier, fiber optic offers speeds up to 2 gigs. I referenced that earlier. One thing I want to share with you, this is kind of my main reason right now for being here. Frontier is trying to change the culture of how utilities interact with, I haven't watched my time, so be sure to tell me when to stop.
Okay.
Frontier,
You're at 2.5 minutes now.
Okay. Frontier has been trying to change the way utilities work with government. And so that's why they brought me on. I've been working with them now for about five months. This is my quote, not theirs, but how I'm summarizing their attitudes is if we're going to do something bigger than we ever have, then we have better business better than we ever have. And that's the whole idea is that rather than come and start pulling permits and you wonder what's going on, the goal here is that before the permit people show up, I show up. And we explain what's going on, where it's coming and such. Jimmy has my cell number, and he's free to share that with all of you on the dais. And my role is to interact with all of you. So if something were ever to percolate to oh, is that me? There we go. If something were ever to percolate to your level, that's where I come in. Otherwise, your staff will deal with folks on my team. But if it gets to your level, you call me, and I'll deal with it. I'll like fire. The VP thing tends to get things done. So I ask questions at this point.
Beautiful. All right, council, any questions?
Because I got about 10 more slides. I just
Yeah, no.
I'm just asking for questions.
Yep. All right.
Will there be any costs associated with these upgrades, changes?
I'm sorry?
Will there be any costs to the residents for these upgrades and changes?
No, this is a, I don't know how many millions of dollars that we're investing in your community. It's a private thing. There's no cost to the residents. If they decide that they're going to, they want the service, then there's that cost. But hooking it up, there's no cost. When we go by their house, it's not until they ask for the service that we then do a drop to the side of the house. And at that point, that doesn't cost them anything either. But they'll pay the monthly service. That's where you saw the 49, the 79, and the 100, and whatever it was for the service.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember LaRomanos.
What is the construction timeline? So when will it begin, and then when will the customers expect to see that completed?
I think that was, we want to start construction around August at this point. And for something this big, I typically, we like to be in and out as fast as possible. And stuff, but I'm probably around 4 months for that. The goal here is that what I want to help do is that we partner. We put all hands meetings on both teams on both sides, getting together and talking about how we best could do this. We want to go as fast as possible, but not so fast that it makes it harder on you. And so that's where the balance comes in, and that's what we're trying to change.
Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you, Mayor. No, I just want to commend you. I appreciate even your last words about partnering. Very important. And you coming to us prior to sort of pulling the permits, because sometimes we find out after the fact, obviously, but I think you coming before us and giving us a short but well-detailed presentation is much appreciated, so thank you.
I thank you for saying that. I've lived where you are for 13 years, and it drove me out of my mind to be surprised. And I walk into a grocery store and somebody asks me a question. I didn't know about it. And so it is my goal in life to see to it that you're not surprised.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being here.
Here.
All right. Okay, item 4.2, public comment by members of the public on items not on the agenda. I don't see anyone in the front row. Do you have any cards for this item?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I have 2 speaker cards. The first one is from Michelle Rodriguez, followed by Andrea Hightower.
Okay, can both of those names please come up to the front row so we're not waiting for you? I'm sorry, are you speaking together? Oh.
Same issue, but not together.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Andrea Hightower. I'm a resident of Gilroy. Not too long ago, I found a dead cat in front of my house. I called Gilroy PD to come pick up the cat. Understandably, they were busy handling other priority calls, said they would send somebody out. As I was waiting for somebody to come pick up the cat, I was trying to hide the scene from kids walking by. Unfortunately, I couldn't wait any longer. But we are fortunate enough to have the county animal shelter in our backyard. I ask that you, City Council, and Madam Mayor use and strengthen the contract with the County Animal Services and stop using a San Jose-based company. This would not only increase response times, but help keep good, union-paying jobs in our community, which will boost our local economy. Using another local government also increases transparency and accountability to the taxpayers and what we're paying for funded services. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Okay, next speaker.
Michelle Rodriguez.
Hi, my name is Michelle Rodriguez. I live in Gilroy. I am a local animal rescuer. So I run into all kinds of animal incidents, injuries, not only domestic, especially our wildlife that resides in Eagle Ridge, where I live. So myself and my neighbors, we run into deer. Deer sometimes get struck by cars, or they get stuck in the fences because there's much gates around Eagle Ridge. So the last incident, a deer was stuck. She broke her leg. It looked like the leg was broken. She's lying there, and her babies are just running around. And my neighbors were traumatized. They call me up to come and help just because they know I love animals. So I ran over there, took a sheet to cover the deer's little face to calm her down. And then I got on the phone to try to get help for this deer in pain and distress. So I called the local animal shelter because I thought they could get there a lot faster because they're like 10, 15 minutes away from Eagle Ridge because they're in San Martin. So what I was told was it's not in their jurisdiction, that I needed to call the city of Gilroy to help this poor deer. So we did that, but it took hours. It took 4+ hours to get that help. It was terrible. So I'm asking, why not utilize our local animal shelter in San Martin? They're only minutes away. And also, we do have a contract with them. I submitted the contract for you guys to look at. I would ask if you would please utilize that just for the animals' sake, for the love of animals. And also tallow. I had a terrible run-in with tallow. There was a dead cat in Eagle Ridge. Again, security calls me up. Michelle, we have a cat's been sitting here for 2.5 days. I say, you know what? That's not right. I picked up that cat, drove it to the San Martin Animal Shelter. They took it in with no questions asked. That animal deserved respect and dignity. So, anyways, that did happen. It was terrible. Tallow came in looking for that cat 3 days later. Asked security, where's that cat? Security says a resident took that cat in because it sat here too long. We called you for numerous days. So when I proceeded to come back into Eagle Ridge after dropping off the cat, security stops me and says, Michelle, you just missed tallow. They were terrible. They called you some choice words for taking that cat in. And we had to tell them to leave. We asked tallow to leave. They were so disrespectful and hurtful.
I'm sorry, the time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. The clock is in front of you. Thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Okay, thank you.
Take care. Thank you. Are there any other speakers?
No other speakers, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All right, item 5, council correspondence. This is a new section on our agenda for things that are just for matters of our attention. City council member meeting attendance, you'll find there, it's in packet page 20. 5.2 is correspondence from Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority. I would like to announce that just today, Assemblymember Berman released a press release saying that he and VTA have decided that he's going to pause AB 2181 They are instead going to jointly call for a state audit of the Santa Clara County Valley Transportation Authority's governance structure, fiscal management, project planning, and monitoring. And then subject to that, both have agreed that they will have the difficult conversation to propose state legislation to address whatever those audit recommendations are. So AB 2181 is on hold. And then the last thing on here for everybody's knowledge is the LAFCO budget for 2022-2023. Are there any council, oh, there is on the board. Okay, I'm going to go to council and then I'm going to open for public comment. Okay, Councilmember Armendariz.
Thank you, Mayor. Can Andy or you, Mayor, clarify how correspondence is added or how somebody submits for this agenda item, whether they be public or council members or outside agencies?
Nobody submits. Jimmy, do you want to answer that? It's staff.
Thank you, Councilmember Armendariz. We have certain items that we receive from other agencies, from other entities that ask us to submit those to council. We haven't had a real consistent method of doing so, and so it has created some confusion. So if that is requested of us, we will put it on under council correspondence, and that way the council may do something with it or not, but at least they have the same information as the public.
So it's for external agencies. How could item 5.1 be added then to correspondence?
That was requested by the council a few weeks ago.
By city council?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, do we have anybody from the public who wants to comment on this?
I received no speaker cards, Madam Mayor.
Okay, then closing public comments. And that brings us then to council member reports. Council member Bracco.
Nothing to report.
All right, council member Armendariz.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to take this time to recognize today as a substitute day for Juneteenth, June 19th, 1865, more than 250,000 enslaved Black people in Texas were announced free by executive order. This was 3 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. Despite being told on that day that they were free, it was not a day that every enslaved person was free.
Councilmember, we're going to adjourn the meeting. I have a big
I understand
reading.
that.
This
I
is
understand
this
that.
is for items that where you
Right.
sit as a council
I
representative.
understand what both mean. I
Okay.
understand the process. Thank you.
Can you please stick to
Can
the
I,
things?
I will finish. Juneteenth is a day to reflect on the ways that slavery is still alive in the United States. It's a day to reflect on the ways in which the Black community built and continues to build this country. It's a day to reflect on the ways that racism and white supremacy are intertwined in our U.S. systems. Juneteenth is a day to reflect on the reparations that have not been made, and it's a day to recommit to fight for Black liberation. Thank you.
Councilmember Hilton.
Thank you, Mayor Blankley. From Visit Gilray, California Welcome Center, the Board of Directors approved unanimously the draft agreement for services with the City of Gilray and recommended approval by the Gilray City Council, which occurred on June 6, 2022. The Executive Director report for April revealed a 12% increase in occupancy rate over prior year, an increase of average daily rate of $23 over prior year, and a revenue PAR increase of $25 over the same month in 2021. All of this data is encouraging news in the lodging industry. 852 brochures and print information were distributed in April at the California Welcome Center. The Welcome Center staff also welcomed 126 international visitors in April, and the country of Germany leading the way with 26 visitors. I've been working with the Executive Director and our staff in getting a refresh of the wayfinding signs that have been weathered and damaged around town, and you'll start seeing those installed any day now. From Silicon Valley Clean Energy, the Board of Directors approved almost $2 million in funding for new community electrification engagement programs. The following programs will help advance electrification by funding high visibility projects across customer segments and provide support to member agencies, community organizations, and others working towards similar goals. Electrification grants for community demonstration projects with funding up to $1.2 million will help pay for incremental cost of electrification for public and community buildings and affordable housing projects. Member agencies, schools, libraries, and other public and community buildings will be eligible to receive funds. A future fit demonstration home to demystify all electric technologies, SVCE will build a demonstration unit and place it at community events throughout SVCE service area. The demonstration will feature all electric appliances, to educate customers on electrification and allow community members to see and experience the benefit of all electric technologies. And lastly, REACH codes are impactful tools for fighting climate change as they help to set policy changes that allow for building electrification at scale to lower emissions, influence future state building codes, and direct local decarbonization policy. Thank you.
Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make a comment. I want to commend and thank the Gilroy Chamber for putting together such a wonderful, well-planned event this weekend. The Garlic Car Show, and to Mr. Mark Turner, thank you for all the hard work you did. It was great seeing so many folks out there. I know, and I had the honor of being a security guard. So they did a great job. There's no incidents that happened. So, but it was great to see so many people visiting our local businesses. And I know I did talk to some business owners, and they really appreciate the work that was done. So thank you again to the Chamber for all the hard work you put into that.
Thank you. Councilmember LaRomagnose.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Two quick items. The Association of Bay Area Governments had its annual meeting last Friday that I was able to attend as our city's representative. Not a whole lot of substance to the meeting in terms of items covered. But in terms of the work plan going forward, two of the priorities for the cities will continue to remain addressing housing and homelessness. So those remain top of the list for the Association of Bay Area Governments. And also the Gilroy Youth Task Force just met this afternoon. Madam Mayor, you're a part of that group, as well as Councilmember Bracco. Just a couple of quick announcements about future items and events that are coming forth. There will be a Youth Police Academy, which will be meeting in August. So if members of our community are interested in participating, specifically the youth members of our community, please do check out the police department's website for more information. Additionally, the Ice Cream with a Cop program will take place on Tuesday, August 2nd, and National Night Out, which is a national event encouraging members of communities to get together with their law enforcement. That'll be happening here in Gilroy on Tuesday, October 11th. So more information forthcoming from the police department.
Thank you. Okay, so you just heard the Gilroy Youth Task Force report. Gilroy Sister Cities met last week, and they're really trying to discuss how to nurture some of our less active sister city relationships. This Thursday is Santa Clara Valley Habitat Agency Governing Board and VTA Policy Advisory Committee met last week as well, and nothing to report there, though. I've given you the update on AB 2181. So with that, I'll move on to item 7, which is future council-initiated agenda items. Councilmember LaRomagnose.
Just one item. I had an opportunity to speak at our last meeting about some of the new water restrictions that the Valley Water has put into place. Had an opportunity also to run into our Water District Representative, John Varela, last week at another event, but his office is very much interested in making a presentation here to our council, so I'm not sure the correct procedure in order to get that on calendar, but I know that he would welcome that opportunity.
All right, thank you. Okay, we'll take, Jimmy's going to take care of that. Councilmember Armendariz.
I'd like to ask if we could ask or direct Jimmy to look into the questions brought today during public comment about the 2 contracts and why do we have 2, and which would better serve our community.
If it pleases council, I can do that in the city administrator's report for July 5th.
Great.
Sounds good, thank you.
Okay. All right, consent calendar. I first need to ask council members if there's anything on the consent calendar that you wish to remove. Okay, seeing none, then I will open public comment. Do we have any public comments for items on consent?
I received no speaker cards, Madam Mayor.
Okay, closing public comment.
Mayor, I'll move for approval.
All right.
Second.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Tovar, seconded by Councilmember LaRomagnose. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Armendariz?
Yes.
Councilmember Bracco?
Yes.
Councilmember Hilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Lima Munoz?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks is absent. Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
And Mayor Blankley.
Yes. All right, and that passes unanimously with 1 absent. All right, item 9.1, under bids and proposals. Approve the purchase of a Vactor 2100i combination single engine sewer cleaner from Owen Equipment in an amount not to exceed $594,156.16. Public Works Director Daryl Jordan's going to tell us all about it.
equipment. Waste about $594,000. Prices are going up, but it's real needed. A little background. Got it? Good? Okay. A little background. On December 4th of 2017, our council unanimously approved the adoption of a resolution authorizing the city administrator to enter into an agreement with the National Joint Powers Alliance and NJPA to take advantage of nationally leveraged, competitively solicited purchasing contracts. On June 6th of 2018, NJPA became formally known as Sourcewell, and this membership agreements, contracts, and agreements entered into with this NJPA will remain valid and continue in effect without any impact with this modification. Our Vector trucks with our fleet are used as the first defense against sewer blockages, spills into waterways, and sewer intrusions, as well as digging for pipeline repairs using its hydro excavator capabilities. It is imperative that problematic pipes be cleaned on their established maintenance cycles in order to protect our public health, the environment, and property. Performing this work with the Vector also protects the city from any potential regulatory enforcement by the Environmental Protection Agency, State Water Board, and non-governmental organizations such as River Watch, Baykeepers, and Clean Water Action. This new Vector truck being purchased will augment the existing fleet and demote the oldest Vector in the fleet, which is 17 years in age, to a backup or emergency status when a newer Vector is in service or otherwise unavailable. The previous or existing Vector purchased in 2017 will remain in heavy use. The older 2005 Vector, previously mentioned, has severe limitations in its cleaning capacity, making it a less efficient choice for the city's cleaning programs. Due to its small capacity and capabilities, our crew's productivity is greatly hampered. This results in reduced volumes of both the high priority cleaning and system-wide cleaning programs, which effectively lead to increased blockages and more service interruptions. The acquisition of this new Vector truck will empower the Streets, Sewers, and Trees Division to adequately adhere to its preventative operation and maintenance objectives, which are as follows: proactive, preventative, and corrective maintenance of gravity sewers, ongoing CCTV inspection programming to determine the condition of gravity sewers, the rehabilitation and replacement of sewers that are in poor condition, and properly trained city employees and contractors to safely assure proper operations and maintenance of the collection system with our facilities. The funding source for this project is out of our Fleet Services Fund, $600,000, as the previously mentioned amount the mayor mentioned, $594,000. The adopted fiscal year 22 budget included $1.5 million for vehicle replacement across the organization, including $500,000 for this Vector. Staff recommends utilizing the appropriations from the remaining vehicle replacement budget to fund the remaining balance of $94,156. And I'm here with any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. All right, council members, any questions for Daryl before I go on to public comment? Okay, do we have any public comments?
I received no speaker cards, Madam Mayor.
All right, closing public comment. Possible action if no one has any questions.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Councilmember Bracco, seconded by Councilmember Tovar to approve the purchase of this item. And digital voting on this? Peter, it says waiting on you. Okay, there we have it. All right, thank you. Item, oh, because it's Daryl again. Item 10. 10.1, acceptance of the Public Health Goal Report for the Gilray Drinking Water System in accordance with California Health and Safety Code 116470. What timing? Go ahead. I know.
Yeah.
What timing?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Let's first give the report that we prepared before this last week, and then we'll catch up on latest events.
Okay.
Little background for this report. The city of Gilroy obtains its municipal water supply from groundwater well sources within the Lagos Basin Aquifer. The city currently operates 9 water wells that vary in depth and are located throughout our city. In 2021, these wells supplied potable water to an estimated 58,213 residents for personal and industrial uses. The United States Environmental Protection Agency and the State Water Resources Control Board have developed regulations referred to as maximum contaminant levels, which we call MCLs, to comply with Safe Drinking Water Act. MCLs are enforceable standards that represent the highest level of a contaminant that is allowed in our drinking water. Public health goals are established by the State Office of Environmental Health Hazard and Assessment. PHGs are non-enforceable health-based goals, and public water systems are not required to meet these PHGs. However, public water systems are only required to not exceed the MCLs established by the board itself. The PHG report is prepared because the PHG for one constituent in the city's water, tetrachloroethylene, also known as PCE, has exceeded the PHG on an average of 0.0003 mgl for the years 2019, 2021. The city's water has never exceeded the MCLs for PCE. A few of the test results from well 1 and well 2 have exceeded the PHG for PCE of 2019-21. The MCL for the PCE is 0.005, which we can't exceed, whereas the PHD, the suggested, is 0.00006. The highest reading for PCE was recorded at well 2 on July 25th of 2019 with a reading of 0.0024, which is still 48% below the MCL. So if you see the chart there, it kind of gives you an idea. The MCL, the maximum contaminant level, is that large bar that stretches to the right at 0.05. The public health goal, which is much more stringent but not enforceable, is down there at 0.00006. And we were just over that at 0.09, you see below that, but not anywhere near the maximum contaminant level. Oops, where'd you go? Okay. So that's the report for this past year. But I'd like to add a little bit more information to get everybody up to speed on what's going on as of this last week. As of last Thursday, June 16th, during routine water quality testing, a city water well located at the Gilman Road in Camino Arroyo tested for nitrate levels at 12 milligrams per liter, which exceeded the maximum contaminant level MCLs of 10 milligrams per liter. That's what we just talked about, the maximum allowable. We hit a 12. That's a spike we've never seen before. City staff immediately placed the subject well offline and reported this occurrence to the California State Water Resource Board. The board required that the city notify all residents and customers of the nitrate levels and provide important information concerning the drinking water. Public Works staff and the city administrator worked through the early hours of Friday morning to craft the notification for our community through different media outlets. The cause of the nitrate level is not known at this time, and the well is no longer providing any water to our consumers. The well will be continually tested until it meets the MCL of 10 milligrams per liter and is approved by the board before we put that back into the water supply. The following day, staff collected numerous samples throughout the city's water supply and sent them to a lab in Monterey. On Saturday, the lab reported that all samples were well under the maximum 10 milligrams per liter and gave us the green light to send out the notice that our drinking water was safe for consumption. Any questions that you may all have? I'm here for you.
Okay, before I go to questions, I'm supposed to ask council members if they have any ex parte communications to disclose on this matter. So looking down, no. Okay, and so what the report was that we issued a press release saying there was a problem, and then the next day the problem was solved. So it is up, the well is now back on, and it's all right.
That's correct.
Okay.
The well is not back on. It's still offline, but the water is safe.
But the water is safe. Okay. So, Councilmember Bracco.
Daryl, do these numbers tend to fluctuate in between dry years and wet years?
They do fluctuate. In California right now is seeing actually several of these nitrate spikes as the water table is dropping. And a lot of these are near or adjacent to different type of agricultural uses where the nitrates are used. And they eventually drop down into the water table and are released when the water table drops to a low point as it is now. So we're seeing that throughout the state right now.
And the problem well was out in farmland, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, Councilmember Armendariz.
Thank you, Daryl, and thank you and your team for your quick work and action on this. I know a lot of residents were very worried. There was a lot of activity on social media. We got a lot of calls and emails about this, so thank you. But that leads to my question: are there state programs that help to educate our residents about these type of contaminants, or local programs? And also, what is our process for notifying folks? Because a lot of folks were a little tipped that they heard it on the news before they heard it from us.
Right. The state requires us within 24 hours to provide a public notice. They don't give us much time at all to do that, and they direct us how to do that, and that's through media, through radio, through TV, and through our website. So through our PIO, who was working with Jimmy at about 2 o'clock in the morning on a Friday morning to get this out, we sent it out to each opportunity or each access we had to get that media out. So that is required by the state to get that out within 24 hours, and they tell us who we have to notify. And then we opened up the phone lines and had like you said, dozens and dozens of calls coming in to our water department throughout the day to try to educate them, answer questions, and direct them in the direction that we could.
Thank you. Thanks for clarifying.
All right, Councilmember LaRomagno's.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And Daryl, I'll echo the thanks for the hard work that was done in very quick order. I mean, obviously, when you deal with drinking water for any community, I mean, it's such a precarious situation. So thank you for the quick response to all that. And no less during the final game of the NBA championship. So that was, I know, I'm sorry, Daryl, but just in case you're wondering, there's good news if you're a Warriors fan. But anyway, on to the serious questions. Have we seen a spike in nitrate levels like this before? I mean, this seems like quite a jump to happen over a real short period of time.
We have not seen a spike before. The maximum is 10, but we've seen 9s pop up once in a while, but they have not exceeded that 10 threshold. So this was really caught us by surprise.
Kind of unprecedented.
Yes.
And then that kind of leads to my next question then. The contaminated well, I'll use that terminology, but the contaminated well is still offline, and it sounds like we're still trying to understand what led to this increase. What steps are we taking to try to get to the source of the problem?
We'll be pulling the pump from this well and some of the casing and doing some testing on that to see if we can determine at what level of water and what point that maybe this infiltrated the system. There's always nitrates in the system. It's not that there's a zero at any point.
Yeah, understood.
But it's just how much is in it at any one time.
Understood. Okay. And I would hope that, when there is a final kind of answer that's revealed by the research, that we will have an opportunity to hear what that is, just so we know for planning going forward.
Absolutely, and we won't put that back online until the state approves what we find.
Very good. Yeah. Thank you, Daryl.
All right, thank you. Okay, this is a public hearing, so it is 6:53 p.m., and I'd like to open the public hearing. Do we have any?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we have one speaker card, and it is Ron Kirkish.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and community, and thank you for that report, sir. As we go through trying to remedy the situation, I'm not sure, we have potable water and non-potable water. Does this water still meet the factors for non-potable waters? And if so, can that be used for watering plants on the golf course and stuff like that instead of being wasted down the drain? I guess that's what my concern is. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other public comments?
There are no other speaker cards, Madam Mayor.
Okay, it's 6:54. I'm closing the public hearing. Okay, possible action is to accept the public health goal report for the Gilray drinking water system in accordance with California Health and Safety Code 116470.
I'll move to accept.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Armendariz, seconded by Councilmember Bracco to accept the report. Digital voting, it looks like. All right, and that passes. Thank you, Daryl. Okay, item 11, unfinished business. 11.1, council adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Gilroy calling and giving notice of, on its own motion, the submission to the electors of the City of Gilroy at a special municipal election to be consolidated with the statewide general election on November 8th, 2022, a ballot measure proposal to amend sections 1109, 1111, and 1503 of the City of Gilroy City Charter to modify construction contract procurement and bidding process. And Jimmy is going to tell us about this.
All right. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. The item before you, and actually the next three items are sharks related, sharks ice related. However, this one, although it is Sharks related, is actually City of Gilroy business related. As we're finding in a lot of the bigger projects that we're doing, and we're doing a lot of them, time is money. And the longer it takes us to do projects, the more expensive it's become. You've seen that in numerous bids. The 7th and Eagleberry parking lot is a good example of a project that is taking a while because of the process. So this recommendation, although would be beneficial to any large project we have. And so I'm going to take you through a slideshow to discuss the proposed charter amendment that would go on the November ballot if approved by council, and which we would hope would help our projects move along a little faster and keep them a little cheaper. We are going through a process that many cities have gone through as well. A lot of charters were created in the 60s, and ours is no different, 1960. And that the language reflects the times. And at that point, public project bidding and official advertisement procedures were required in certain sections, but the only way to publicly, to publicize was through the newspaper. And the only type of bidding process at the time was to have a design that you contract out, and then take that design and take it out to the public bidding process. The language is old and inefficient, and does not align with how things are done in other cities at this point. So this is really a catch-up type of ballot measure. Cost of projects have greatly increased since the establishment of the charter in the 1960s, and so you'll see some of these numbers that are very, very low. And so this is basically an efficiency amendment as well. The ballot measure proposes to amend the charter to update these sections. Currently, right now, the minimum formal bidding threshold is $35,000, and it's been that way for decades. And so we would propose that we amend that section to be consistent with state of California public contract code. We're not exceeding that. We're just meeting the standard that is in place for other cities. We're also asking about a best value contracting as a procurement option, and I'll explain that in a second. And then design build contract, and then modernizing the public noticing bid selection rules in the charter. And I'll go through each one of those sections and talk to you a little bit about what we're proposing. The current charter has $35,000 or more, must be formally bid. Sealed bids, lengthy process compared to informal bids, more requirements that prohibit small and local businesses from competing. So if you are a local business and it's a $40,000 project, it may cost you $5,000 just to bid on it. This threshold being raised will enable some businesses that maybe are discouraged by the process to be more active in some of our bidding and some of our contracts. According to current California law, cities can informally bid projects up to $200,000. I'm not sure what $35,000 was worth in 1960, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is not far off. So again, we're just asking to go to what other cities are allowed by law. And so it would tie formal bid amounts to state law. And then the informal bidding process would still be up to council approval. It would be a competitive process right now. We have to get 3 quotes, and that process is approved by the city council. So we have a purchasing policy that the council's approved that would remain in place. Best value contracting. Right now, public projects are currently only awarded on price, and several large projects, I'll tell you the Anderson Dam retrofit, had an amendment to allow it to use best value contracting, and a good example would be if somebody theoretically wanted to build an ice rink in Gilroy. Not a lot of contractors have built ice rinks, so you wouldn't necessarily want to go with the cheapest because you might end up with not an ice rink. And so this is a good opportunity to make sure that the entity is qualified. They've done the work before. We trust their conditions. We qualify them, and then we look at the price, not look at the price solely. And so it's useful in complicated projects where the conditions of the project site might be unknown, and it's complex or customized just for the city. Whatever we build will most likely be one of a kind, although companies have done similar types of projects. They're all a little bit different, and the expertise is needed. Design build contracting. This is really the main component of the amendment. And as I previously stated, design and construction are separately bidded and awarded, and it adds significant time to projects. But one of the kind of hidden things is you have an architect design a project, it gets bid out, the construction company shows up, starts doing it, and says the architect messed up, or I don't know what the architect was talking about. They've then got to go back and forth as opposed to being on the same team and trying to figure out a solution to the problem. That is very common. Design build can reduce time and cost. The city, we contract with one contractor who does all this as one piece. They assemble a team of designers and sub-consultants to design and construct the project, and then we eliminate the second bidding process. There's less conflict in the process, and the project has savings in time and cost. Had we done this for the parking lot, it would most likely be done by now. And then design build contract. It's not beneficial on all projects, but on the right projects, you can save time and money. It adds the option it's an option for the city to use. It's not required. And so we would only recommend it in cases where project is over $1 million, and we would also follow the California law for design build competitive building. And then modernizing noticing bid solicitation. The charter requires bid advertisements in newspapers, and newspapers have definitely changed since 1960. The amendment would allow advertising in one or more of a newspaper of general circulation, an electronic publication, a trade journal, or a list of qualified contractors, also known as a bidder's list. A lot of our work comes from the efforts we put into a bidder's list, and so this would modernize how we advertise and not just require of it. Actually, the requirement is a daily newspaper, which we do not have a daily local newspaper. So at the time, 1960, we did, but we do not now. It also defines the bidding process on selecting the official newspaper. Policy would be approved by council, and it would also allow council to have the ability to make updates as necessary. You wouldn't have to go back and update the charter every time state law changes. I already talked about the daily to qualify. There is no daily paper in Gilroy, and it ties the definition to California government code, where local papers would now qualify even though they don't have daily publication. So it would bring the dispatch. It still would remain that we'd advertise with the dispatch. We just wouldn't be required to, to advertise just with them. The ballot measure options that are on top of the four things I just talked to you about with things that we would recommend and things you're probably very familiar in seeing in a ballot measure. And so not only are we proposing the ballot measure to amend the charter, we would also be recommending that you allow for an impartial analysis, stating that council can include a resolution to have the city attorney prepare this for the voters' sample guide. Actually, this is required, but you do need to make that motion. And so our city attorney will write, I believe, a 250-word statement giving an impartial analysis of what exactly this is doing. And he would be independent in his creation of that paragraph. The council may authorize itself or any members to prepare an argument in favor. So it could be someone on the council who would say, this is the reason why the city needs to do it, which would not be as impartial, but would definitely be kind of a plea to the voters, like this is why we're trying to do it, not so much the legal reasons that Andy would include. And then the last part would be allowing somebody to argue against it and basically say this is a horrible idea, the argument in favor doesn't make any sense, all things you've seen, and then we would be allowed to refute and have a rebuttal of that argument. So those are the pieces that we would also recommend that council permit and allow as part of this measure. The general fiscal impact is that it would cost us about $30,000 to put this on the ballot in November because we're already having a general election, so that would just be the added cost. So it would be pretty phenomenal, and that would come from the general fund, and we would most likely just absorb that in our current budget. The next steps are, if approved by council, staff will submit to the county to have the language added to the November 8th, 2022 election, and the voters can tell us, their opinion on the matter. Recently, a few cities have gone through this process, and the most common one we refer to as the city of Santa Cruz, and this measure passed by about 80% to 20. So it hasn't tended to be too contentious, and seems to be a good way to update your charter, but also understanding it as a vote of the people, and the people's will prevail. I want to acknowledge the enormous help that Andy and his office and his staff of attorneys have helped on this. This is extremely complicated stuff, and so we are in a good place. And I also want to thank Ty as well, who we're all jumping in together trying to get this. This was not something we had planned on doing a few months ago, but realizing these projects really need to get out the door, and knowing this is a tool that allows us to do that made us make sure we brought it to council. So I would be, as long with anybody with the team, would be happy to answer any questions you have about this.
Thank you, Jimmy. I'm going to go to council in just a sec. Councilmember Tovar is waiting to speak, but I just want to point out that this is a ballot measure. This isn't something the city council votes on. We are a charter city, and that means that we are somewhat different than cities that are not charter cities that just follow state code. So when cities like Morgan Hill, for example, are able to go to their bidding process, they follow what we're already asking to go to the voters now, what we have to go to the voters now to do. So I, for one, am very grateful for whatever the reason that this is finally coming to our attention, because who knew it's been this way for so long, and how many times our hands have been tied, into something more expensive. So glad to see that, so that we can bring it to the voters' attention. That's what that means. Okay, Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you, Mayor. And first of all, Jimmy, thank you for your report, and thank you, Mayor, for those comments that you made. I do appreciate this coming forward, and I think, a couple of the main things that you pointed out, it reduces time and cost. I wish this would have came to us a long time ago, because we're going to have to wait till November. And if it passes, or if it doesn't pass, then we're in a different boat here. But given the projects, and we talked about the large projects, and you did mention the parking lot, but we're looking also possibly the Sharks, the fire station, the 10th Street Bridge, all of that. Given where we're at today, this still puts us, we have to wait 5 months to see what happens. So we're still very behind schedule, if for lack of better words, given that, if we had this a year or 2 years ago, I think, like you said, it'd make it a lot easier. So I do appreciate that it's coming forward now, just like the mayor said, but for me, I wish it was something that came sooner, but I appreciate the work that was put into it. You mentioned the Prepare the Voters Sampler Guide that is going to be put together by our city attorney. Is that something typically when ballot measures are put together, is that typical that the city manager or city attorney for that city writes this up?
Perhaps I can respond to that.
Yeah, please.
The election code provides for an impartial analysis by the city attorney. Mm-hmm. And I think in every ballot measure I've ever seen, there is one, frankly. Right. And the election code actually talks about it as being somewhat voluntary, and that's why it's on here. You have to order me to do it. But it's completely customary to do it. And what I have to be is impartial. I don't have to be fair, but I have to be impartial and give an honest analysis of the thing. And so that's the purpose for that. And then the arguments, of course, are absolutely typical also.
Right.
The election code governs that. If the council decided not to give arguments, then someone else could give them. So if the council decides to give the argument, which again is customary, and the rebuttal, then the registrar has to put those as the official arguments. If the council doesn't, then other people can somehow get their oar in the water, which presumably is not desirable.
Okay, yeah, no, and I just, because the mayor mentioned earlier the importance for our residents to know sort of this ballot measure and the importance of being very clear and precise with our information. I guess for me, are we as a council going to be able to look at what you put together prior to it going out? And B, what additional costs are we looking at for it to be done by our attorneys?
It's not very complicated to do it. It's a number of hours of work because we have to be careful and we have to go through some drafts. But no, we would not give it to the council in advance. That's because it is an impartial and it's supposed to be our work product and not the council's work product. The council's work product is the argument that you put on.
Yeah, just that one. Just that one, the impartial one is the one that wouldn't come to us because otherwise it's not impartial. And it doesn't cost any additional, because I asked that question earlier today to put that on there.
Right.
But to put an argument in there in favor of, for example, I would love to take a stab at writing that with Jimmy and yes, to show it to the council before we submit it and have it go as from the Gilroy, written by the mayor, but on behalf of the city council would be great.
Yeah, no, and I think that's where I was going with that, and I appreciate that because, I think we as elected bodies should have some say in it, and obviously it's important that the residents know exactly why this is important. So
Right. But one other thing that I learned, though, when I was talking to Andy today is for the rebuttal, not rebuttal, I'm using the wrong word. Anybody can submit something against it, and it goes in the ballot. So we would then be authorizing the council to rebut that.
Okay.
But we can't stop anybody who wants to write something against,
Okay. No, thank you. And Jimmy, my last question, I know we mentioned about sort of how we're going to go about sort of sharing this with the public. You did mention the dispatch, right? But does this keep us from utilizing, the chamber, the welcome center to also help promote this to the residents as well?
Are you talking about the ballot measure or the
Yeah.
actual purchasing?
No, the ballot measure. So-
Once you approve, we are actually not able to advocate for this. We have to take a step aside, but you as elected officials can do that on your own time if
Okay.
you wish. So
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Armandaris.
Thank you. Jimmy, late this afternoon, we've received correspondence from the Building Trades Council. We know that they represent thousands of local trades workers, residents of Gilroy, and of our county. And it has some language that I think is significant towards local hire, right? Fair practices that benefit local workers and such. What does the timeline look like? Do we have time to look at this language and consider incorporating some of it into the proposed language that you presented today?
that would be a council decision to have that discussion about the language, whether or not we include it. But we are basically bringing this to you at the last minute. We received that letter from the Trades Council about an hour and a half before the council meeting.
Mhm.
So we've had no opportunity to really even understand what it is. So it would be at the decision of the council to either take the staff recommendation as it's written or to amend it. If you amend it, it could take longer and we may potentially lose the November ballot.
What does the timeline look like from the registrar? When's our,
I would defer to the city clerk.
okay.
Final time is for July 5th, July 6th.
To submit
To submit, yes.
our arguments and rebuttals?
No, just to submit the ballot measure itself. The arguments and for and against, and the rebuttal, should council have one, is after. I don't have the actual calendar in front of me, but it's about 2 to 3 weeks afterwards.
Okay. But this language is July 5th?
Correct.
Thank you.
July 6th.
6th,
Yes.
okay.
Okay.
It's a short timeline.
Okay, Councilmember Hilton.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so if we do the arguments for, we're going to be asked to do the rebuttal as well, because just anticipating somebody else doing it, is that what I'm hearing, right? Because it gives someone the opportunity whether we do it or not do it.
Right. So there's the 3 steps. There's the argument in favor, then there is the argument against, and then we would have, as the city, whoever the council designates, the opportunity to argue against the argument against.
Okay, so you wait for somebody to do the rebuttal, and then it would come back to us, and we would do a rebuttal on that.
No, if I can
No,
clarify,
no,
yeah,
I'm confused.
we prepare an argument in favor. At the same time, someone else is preparing an argument against. But those get exchanged.
If there's someone else.
Yeah, assuming someone else, if someone
Yeah.
does, right. Those get exchanged, and then each side has a short period of time to prepare a rebuttal argument to the other argument.
All right.
So we would be authorizing today the council or the mayor to do an argument in favor and a rebuttal if an argument against it is submitted. If no argument is submitted, then no rebuttal is necessary, I suppose.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember LaRomagnose.
So Jimmy, one of the things that I'm kind of thinking about in my mind around this timeline is, actually going back to one of the things you said about the cost of tying this into an existing, election season. If we were not to take advantage of that, how much would it cost us more so than the $30,000 that we're looking at?
Probably $800,000 to $1 million. $800,000 to $1 million.
So that's a significant increase if we don't take this opportunity in terms of the timing. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I would like to go to the public next and open public comment. Do we have any speaker cards on this?
I received no speaker cards, Madam Mayor.
Okay, then, we all know we have quite a few written comments, but here we have none. Okay, so closing public comment. And I'd like to propose that under possible action, we take this one thing at a time. So, for example, if we could please focus on item B. Item A, we've just done. So item B, if the council wishes to proceed with the charter amendment, wishes to proceed to put up to the voters, right? I would need a motion to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Gilroy calling for and giving notice of on its own motion, as it says there. Is there a motion for that?
So moved. Second?
Okay, so moved by Councilmember Bracco, seconded by Councilmember Tovar. And this needs to be a roll call vote, is that?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay,
And that's for item B.
this is for item B, yes.
Yes. Councilmember Bracco?
Yes.
Oh, Councilmember Armendariz, I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Councilmember Hilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Lira Munoz?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks is absent. Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
And Mayor Blankley.
Yes, okay, so that's unanimous with one absent. And then I'd like to move to what is in our packet as item D, but I'm going to call it item C because I think it should have been first. And that's a council discussion and consideration of whether to authorize the city council to submit an argument in favor of the city measure. And I would like to propose that I together with Jimmy, write that and bring it before the council so that we can say that it is on behalf of the Gilroy City Council, if that's,
So moved.
if we can do that. Okay.
Second.
All right, so that's moved by Councilmember Tovar and seconded by Councilmember Leroy Munoz, and that's also a roll call vote.
Councilmember Armendariz?
Yes.
Councilmember Bracco? Councilmember Hilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Lira Munoz?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks is absent. Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
And Mayor Blankley.
Yes. Okay, that's also unanimous -1. Now, what's in our packets is C, but it is now D. It's to do the same thing, only if somebody submits an argument against, that we then authorize ourselves in the same manner as we did the in favor argument to rebut the argument. Okay, moved by Councilmember Leroy Munoz,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Tovar. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Armendariz?
Yes.
Councilmember Bracco?
Yes.
Councilmember Hilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Lira Munoz?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks is absent. Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
And Mayor Blankley.
Yes. And lastly is item E, council discussion and consideration of whether to direct the city clerk to transmit a copy of the measure to the city attorney to prepare an impartial analysis pursuant to Election Code Section 9280.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Tovar. Okay. Moved by Councilmember Leroy Munoz and seconded by Councilmember Bracco. Okay. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Armendariz?
Yes.
Councilmember Bracco?
Yes.
Councilmember Hilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Lira Munoz?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks is absent. Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
And Mayor Blankley.
Yes. Okay. That passed unanimously too. So we are on to 11.2, everybody. Wow. Thank you. Okay, 11.2 is approval of a third amendment to the exclusive negotiating agreement with Shark Sports and Entertainment LLC to fully assess the potential of having the Sharks organization operate a new indoor recreational facility. And for those out in the audience, that is an extension through December 31 of 2022 is what's being proposed. All right, Jimmy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No PowerPoint, just a quick summary of the staff report. This is a request to enter into a third amendment with Sharks Ice LLC and the city of Gilroy for an exclusive negotiating agreement. We've had two of them previously, and in a nutshell, it is a commitment by both entities to negotiate solely with each other and not with other entities in the progress of developing a potential ice facility at the Gilroy Sports Park. This extension is just for 6 months. That will get us through the end of the calendar year. And again, like I said, it'd be the third amendment. Again, to identify a potential project, identify financing, and determine the operational relationship. So that commences my report, or that concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. All right, Councilmember Tovar has a question.
Thank you, Mayor. Jimmy, so help me understand. I mean, I'm in favor of this, obviously, and you correct me if I'm wrong. A few years back when we created the ad hoc committee, which I was originally on, but I shortly after gave up my seat so the mayor could jump on, it was my understanding that ad hoc committee was going to be very involved in discussions with you and the Sharks. Is that happening, or why? If not, why not?
You want me to answer that? We were very involved. Every single meeting was with our ad hoc committee. We stopped last October, I think it was, when we had progressed to the point of needing to get to that term sheet.
Right.
And that term sheet was not something we or any council member could be a part of. That was for city staff and for the Sharks organization to come up with what we are now in our next item going to be presented to the council. So nothing in that term sheet included the participation of any council member.
Okay, yeah, and I guess that's why I'm asking, Mayor, because again, it seems that staff has been solely responsible for the
term sheet.
For the term sheets, but the ad hoc committee eventually
got us there.
Okay.
We pushed.
You pushed it?
We pushed.
But you guys are now sort of dormant now, right? It's been for a while.
Yeah, we haven't met, we did one meeting, Jimmy, right? We reconvened right after we knew we were going to have something, so very, very recently, just to make sure that the ad hoc committee understood
Right, okay.
everything in that term sheet
Yeah.
before it became a final draft, right? A final draft that's being presented to us. Until we authorize it, it is nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
No, and I'm asking this question because I know that you all on the ad hoc committee were very involved in the beginning, and I felt comfortable having you guys help represent the city as well. So that's why I'm asking sort of the involvement. Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no other council member questions at this point, I'll go to public comment. Any?
I received no speaker cards, Madam Mayor.
Okay, closing public comment. Again, for the public, we got lots of written comments, just nobody's here wanting to speak. Okay, so if there are no other questions, and we're ready for possible action to approve the Third Amendment.
I'll move for approval. I'll second.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Armendariz and seconded by Councilmember Tovar, and this is digital voting. All right, passes all 6 of us. All right, 11.3, Gilray Ice Center non-binding term sheet approval. And so this is, again, Jimmy telling us all about their negotiations.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is the big one this evening, and I first want to acknowledge that Mr. John Gustafson, who is the Senior Vice President of Sharks Ice, and the SAP Center is with us and is going to have a statement after I finished mine, but I'm basically doing the presentation on behalf of both of us. I didn't sneak anything in here in the last minute that he hasn't seen, but I will tell you, we've been working on this for almost 3 years with the ad hoc committee in different variations, and with a lot of attorneys, a lot of people, and so we're excited to be here today. I'm trying to contain my excitement because it's been a long road, but in essence, it's been kind of fun too. So I've enjoyed working with the Sharks, and they've been good teammates in all this. So I'm going to go through all this. It's a lot, but at the end of the day, I've tried to highlight the things that I think are most important. But I think the most important thing I can tell you is this is non-binding. You are under no legal obligation to do anything after today. We essentially will tell you why it's non-binding and where we're at and what the next few months will look like. So I'll just dive right in and get going. This started as a result of the economic partners with the city in creating Gilroy as a recreation destination to get us to focus on 3 recreation activities, initiatives. And one was the 536 around Gilroy Gardens, which is the Hecker Pass Tourism Gateway, and then Gourmet Alley and Gilray Sports Park, which includes the ice facility. We've made progress on 2 out of the 3. I think we're close to getting some next steps in the 536 as well, so that enabled us to focus, and I think you're seeing the results of that focus tonight. 3 years of discussions with Shark Sports and Entertainment, LLC, the Sharks, mostly John Gustafson, and President of the Sharks, Jonathan Becker, as well, and then myself, Corinne, Decker with the city, and Andy, of course, as our legal counsel. But we started these discussions in May of 2019, and it started with a council ad hoc committee. And that committee did visit Southern California to visit a site, did a lot of work of just trying to figure out what this is and what this means for Gilroy. Also a tour of the I forgot what the Solar for America Center in San Jose. And so a lot of time spent on everybody, including elected and staff, just trying to see what is possible for their community. Council made a big step at one point when they amended the environmental impact report, which showed the facility. So we've got a lot of the environmental work out of the way, and we also already paid for the agricultural mitigation easement for Gilroy Sports Park Phase 3, and all that included an indoor sports facility. The term sheet overview is just a framework for a potential deal. There could be items in the term sheet that change by the time we get to a final deal, but we are agreeing in good faith that this is where we're going and this is what we are agreeing to at this point. It gives us the basis for more detailed, legally binding documents. That's when the details of the commas and the periods and the T's and the I's get dotted. And but in general concept for lay people like myself, this is what we're trying to acknowledge. This is what we agree to. A binding agreement would typically follow this shortly after. But we're in a different kind of situation in that we will, if we get your approval for the term sheet, we will pause our negotiations with the Sharks for 2 reasons. One, the previously approved just a few minutes ago design build ballot measure is very important to this project due to the actual cost and timeline. And so that'll give us an opportunity to see what the voters think about this, and if they approve, we would be ready to go in December, January timeframe once we get the election certified and things like that. And the second part is the Surplus Land Act process completion. I'll describe that a little bit more to you in another slide, but those are the two things we're going to pause for, and both of them will take about the same amount of time. I'm going to skip through this really quick because we had this approved, and so you know, the ballot measure for the design build was approved earlier, so I won't even go through this. The Surplus Land Act process. In the very beginning, there were certain terms and conditions that the California Housing and Community Development Department required for us on surplus land. And so the thought is, if a city has surplus land, you have to make sure that you let developers know that you could use it for affordable housing. We did that for the property out on Hecker Pass, and we completed that process, and we're in the legal clear. When we started in 2019, we were operating under an exemption that if you completed this negotiation by December 31st, 2022, then you didn't have to go through certain provisions of the Surplus Lands Act. Well, this has taken 3 years. We now have a ballot measure to wait on, and the likelihood of us finishing a binding agreement by December 31st, 2022 is highly unlikely and just not realistic. And so in consultation with both, our city attorney and with the Sharks legal representatives, the thought was that since this will most likely be longer than a 5-year lease, why don't we just go through the process now to make sure that we've complied, we won't have any issues going forward. And so that means we must notice developers of a 60-day period that the land is available, and if we get any interest, then we have to negotiate for 90 days. And we have to do that in good faith. And in good faith means that we pause our discussions with the Sharks so we're not still negotiating. So as you can imagine, a circular property in the middle of a sports park is maybe not that desirable for an affordable housing developer, but we owe it to the state of California to go through that process and make sure that there isn't. So we will do so. The term sheet involves a bond issuance to fund the project, and talking a little bit about the legal components of issuing bonds. Whenever you issue bonds, I's get dotted twice, T's get crossed twice. So anything like the Surplus Land Act that has any opportunity to create problems later, according to bond counsel, we should address. So we're going to do that. So the ballot measure to design and build won't resolve until December. This process, at the very minimum, could be resolved in 60 days, possibly 150 days. And so we've all agreed that this is the best route to go for us to make sure that the project can start and not have any legal issues. If you want to see what happens when you don't do this process properly, you can always look up the city of Anaheim that was fined, I believe, $87 million for not doing it properly. 20% of what the sale of the property. So for us, that could be $6 million, $7 million fine. Okay. The part of the process with the term sheet allowed all of us to do our due diligence, and we each did our due diligence. Arguments of experts and attorneys, outside consultants. We had EPS on our side doing the economic analysis, checking the Sharks' numbers. They had them checking their numbers, and we had somebody else check their numbers. So there was a lot of that. But at the end of the day, we used it to evaluate the financial viability, risk, and identify potential challenges. And one of the things that really caught me by this process is that anytime you start down the road of this, the project tends to get bigger and the costs start to get higher. Further due diligence that we've done in the last few months actually shrunk some of those dollars. And I think that shows you that this is a commitment by both parties to make sure that whatever's built has the greatest opportunities to succeed. And one of the things that we identified not too long ago is that the inclusion of a recreation center, one, is not in the core operations of the Sharks group, and two, in the analysis did not seem to be a good location for a central recreational facility due to its location. And so economically, it doesn't pan out either, according to the analysis. So we're not including that in this part of the term sheet. The city could always evaluate that project going forward on its own at another location, and we intend to do that as part of the budget process because that is something we're not giving up on, but we don't want that to complicate this this project. So the recommendations based on that type of info, again, are reducing some of the risk. There are 25 provisions in the term sheet, and the majority of them are pretty straightforward and pretty simple. I'm going to run through these very quickly, and some of them certainly require more time and discussion just because of their importance. The project is defined as a 2 NHL-sized ice rink, which I believe is 85 feet by 200 feet with 387 parking spaces at the Gilroy Park. The scope of term sheet addresses construction and long-term operation of the facilities. The intent is that the Sharks will operate it for as long as we have debt service on it. So it could be 30 or 35 years depending on what the bond structure. The city owns the facility and the Sharks will be the operator. Construction financing plan, the city expends with revenue bonds and it's reimbursed through payments from the Sharks. Other terms within the term sheet. So the Sharks are incentivized to create revenue out of that facility because they're legally obligated to pay for the debt. And I'll show you some of the steps, what happens if for some reason they don't pay for that debt. But that's the arrangement. They take all the risk, and they ultimately have shown through our research and understanding to be good partners in that sense and their other facilities. The design build charter amendment we've already talked about. We put that in the term sheet as encouraging us to to proceed in looking at that. But one key piece in that is that we would retain the Sharks as construction consultants at $15,000 a month for 18 months. That gives us the operator of the facility. We need a construction manager, a project manager as well. We would have had a contract for that as well. And we also have a cap. And so if this project goes over 18 months, the Sharks are only going to get paid for those 18 months that they're consulting, and they have to help us finish the project. So we feel that it's money well spent for a project this size. We will split the design fees 50-50, but if the project never gets built, the city would have to pay the Sharks back. If they don't, they'll absorb it within their revenues, what they generate at the facility, but that is the risk that we're taking on that part. It's a very small risk, I believe, for a project this size because we would still have the design of it. It just means the Shark wouldn't have to pay for the design for a project they never got $1 out of. Term of the agreement, 30 to 35 years. Annual base payments. The Sharks make base payments equal to the debt service, and they provide the city 50 basis points over the interest, and that's basically the administrative fee that we're going to get reimbursed for the cost we have in dealing with the financing. We have reports. We have arbitrage analysis, things like that the city would have to pay for. The Sharks will pay us above and beyond what the interest rate is to make sure we cover those costs. Operating revenues and expenses. The Sharks are entitled to all revenues generated and responsible for cost for orderly operation of the facility. I can tell you that at first you may say, why did the Sharks get all of the revenues? Well, they also get all the risk. And there are other facilities that were closed for months and perhaps even a year. They still paid the bills. They still had to, and they took in no revenue. So that protects the city, that if the facility's closed for another pandemic or something like that, the Sharks are still on the hook. So they're taking a risk with that. Permitted use, Sharks can operate it with any type of ice rink and ancillary uses. We see that at the other facilities they have. And then programming use of facility, common sense clause here that they don't schedule youth ice hockey at 3 o'clock in the morning, those kinds of things. Ordinary maintenance and repair day to day, it's the Sharks' responsibility. And then capital repairs, replacements, enhancements, that's the Sharks' responsibility. The extraordinary repair work, let's say we have a problem with the building, the roof needs to be replaced, or something structurally happens, the city would be on the hook for that because it's our building. And so, again, we don't expect a significant cost in that area. Most of our facilities have done fine, and we also have insurance. And so I think the risk in that area is also pretty minimal for the city. Okay. Employee requirements, the Sharks are required to comply with all state and applicable ordinance as it pertains to employment. The Sharks are also, going to provide a direct community benefit. Like I said, we won't have youth hockey at 3 in the morning. We'll have these things when they're available to our youth, and then at night, late night, will be a lot of the adult activities. The Sharks also offer free general admission to at-risk youth for school groups and such, up to 5,000 of those a year. So they've been a good partner in these other facilities in getting people access regardless of their income level and financial situation. Fee schedule, it's commensurate with the fees that they charge at their other locations. So we've seen what they charge at Oakland and Fremont and San Jose, and they're making a commitment that they'll be very similar as the market and industry dictates. Building naming rights. The Sharks can sell the naming rights with, in consultation with the city council, and it is required to have the word Gilroy in it. So it could be the, well, for instance, Solar for America at San Jose, or SAP Center at San Jose. It would be that same kind of moniker, except at Gilroy. So it would definitely be in the title. Expansion potential. The Sharks are looking at this at a much longer range than we currently are proposing. They have expanded the San Jose facility at least three times, and they're in the middle of a major expansion for a minor league hockey facility and a small arena. So this is what they do. They look at opportunities. We have the land, and if this thing performs the way we expect it to, the Sharks are going to want to expand it. And so our only obligation of the city is that if we feel we're going to do anything to land that would impede that expansion, we need to let them know, and we need to consult with them, but we're not obligated to provide them any additional land for expansion, but it would be a good problem to have. To me, number 20 is one of the most important parts of this term sheet, and this is a little bit more of our insurance, and this is the letter of credit. So as security for the debt service payments that the Sharks owe the city, we are asking them to take out a 2-year letter of credit. And what that does is that guarantees that we as a city, if they default on their payments, could go to the bank with this letter of credit and get cash to make sure 2 years of debt service payments are covered. Could be around $4 million, but that's in the city's hands. If something tragically or catastrophic was to happen and the Sharks failed to operate it, we would be covered for 2 years to figure out something to do. So that is a very big insurance policy for us. And over time, that letter of credit would be shrunk as the debt service payments go down, or the debt service amount goes down. So it's a very typical kind of arrangement, but we got a little bit more time on here than in some of their other situations. And to me, that's another piece of insurance for us. If the Sharks decide they no longer want to operate this ice facility, we have the approval to assign it or find another vendor, but only with city approval. They can't just find somebody on their own. They have to get your approval. 387 cost-free spaces. I think this is important to point out. The Sharks are permitted to charge parking only with city approval for special events. A lot of times they have tournaments from teams all over the country. They're here, spending money in our restaurants, and we're going to charge for parking. But normally, that would not be the case. It'd be free for normal operations. The Sharks are the city is responsible for the property insurance, and we've looked at that. It's a very rough estimate, but it would be about $40,000 a year for the city to insure that property, and then the Sharks would be responsible for the insurance of operations. So any injuries or anything like that, or any claims against their operations would be on them. And then damage and destruction provisions to the ice rink become damaged or destroyed. Catastrophic weather or what. There are some provisions in there as well. So that's the 25. Fiscal impact. At this time, the facility is anticipated to cost $25 million, and I will tell you this is budget-driven, not project-driven. Project-driven means that we go through here, we spend the 25, and we come back and ask for more. We're not coming back for more. This is our budget, and you build the facility with the dollars you have, not with what you want, necessarily. So we'll see what the market gives us, but that's a commitment. That's what the Sharks feel that the facility can support. So it'd be about $31 million with the debt interest. The city contributes to off-site improvements funded by impact fees, and we expect that to be about $4 million, and the majority of that is the installation of 2 traffic signals. The city will have to install those eventually anyway. We will pay for those with impact funds that are paid by developers, and so that will not come out of the general fund. Some utility work and things like that will also be included in that. The general fund is not directly funding this project, but I think in transparency, our time, permit fees, that since it's our project, we typically don't charge ourselves our own permit fees and things like that. So those are things we'll absorb in the general fund, but it won't be a direct cost. The bonds are secured by payments from the Sharks. We have done our homework and, as I said earlier, found that even when they are closed, they still make their payments. They have great support from what I call the mothership, the big company involved, and then the city's collateral for this project is the actual sports park itself. And so if they were to default and go out of business, we decided we didn't want to pay the bills, the bank would actually take the sports park, which is not the first time we've done this. We've done this for other facilities, the police station. At one time, the sports park was pledged for investments at the sports park. So that would be the biggest risk. Through all of that, you are not required to use general fund money as collateral. And that's why you don't have to go to the voters for the bond issuance. All right, I think I'm getting there. So let's ask the real question here. What are the real risks? One, the facility does not generate enough revenue. That's really not the city's problem. That's the Sharks. This is what I said. They're taking on the risk, and they're contractually obligated to make those payments. The two-year letter of credit as security and insurance buys us time, and then we feel that the overall support of the Sharks organization and their mother company has shown through their other facilities that they're good partners, they're good neighbors, and they have a great reputation in the business. If the Sharks no longer want to operate the facility, they could transfer the provision of operations to another vendor, but it would only be if the council said okay, if the council approved that. And then again, the risk is pledging of the Gilroy Sports Park as collateral. So that's our risk. Conclusion, the term sheet is not legally binding, but they are general parameters of the final negotiated agreement and are expected to mirror the actual final term sheet and operating agreement. This is a unique opportunity for the city to enter in an agreement with a national brand wanting to invest in the community. I have never sold this as a money-making entity for the city, and we've never sold it as a money-making entity for the Sharks. Everybody's pretty happy if we break even, but at the end of the day, in talking with the Sharks, they have a very core object here, and it's to grow the game. Because you grow the game at this level, they become NHL fans, they go to the big arena, they buy the jerseys, they do those kinds of things, and so that's how they grow the game and get people into minor league games, and that's good for everybody. And it gives our kids something to do that maybe they never would get a chance to do. So that's how we looked at it. This approval, if you're able to grant it today, would be the first official declaration of support for the project, but it's not legally binding, and it will enable us to do those other two processes and then eventually to come back to you for an operating agreement, which would be your legal commitment to go forward with the project. Again, this is the recommendation. I've already been through that, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. And John would also like to give you a few words of...
Yeah, I think before we go to questions, Council, I'd like to let John Gustafson come up and speak from the Sharks, and then that way we'll have all the information that you might want.
Madam Mayor, Council, John Gustafson, Senior Vice President, Shark Sports Entertainment. I'll echo everything that Jimmy said. We're very excited to be here. We're honored to be here. It's been a long, arduous journey, to say the least, but again, we're very excited to be here tonight. For a number of years, we've been actively looking to expand our Sharks Ice recreational footprint south, as this is the direction many of our new and future fans and season ticket holders are moving to. It's important to note, moving south from our flagship facility in San Jose, the next closest ice rink due south is Goleta, California, 282 miles from here. The new proposed facility in Gilroy will be approximately 75,000 square feet. It will be the catalyst and a growth factor for the Gilroy Sports Park. It will have 2 NHL-sized rinks and all the other necessary amenities to operate the best-in-class ice recreational facility. This facility will be open 18 to 20 hours per day, 360 days per year, and employ dozens of local employees. Not only will it be a local draw for this community, it will also be a regional draw for ice events such as youth hockey tournaments and figure skating competitions. I want to take this time to thank the city staff, the ad hoc committee, as well as the chamber for the numerous meetings and discussions that we've had getting us to this point of the term sheet. We recognize this is one of many important steps in the process, and we support the staff's recommendation to approve the term sheet, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you very
John.
much.
Thank you. Okay, so Council, if you have questions, please just line up on the board. I'm going to start with Councilmember Tovar, and whoever needs to respond.
John, and I'm going to have a question for you, but I have a few questions. First of all, long time in the making, and I'm ready to vote yes on this, so I'm excited because, like I said, when we had an opportunity to go down to Anaheim to see the facility they built out there. I can only imagine what it's going to look like out here. So I'm excited. I know it's going to be a huge benefit to the community, and I want to thank our city staff that have been involved in this here. Again, I want to commend you on the term sheet especially in regards to the 5,000 at-risk disadvantaged kids that will be able to, utilize the facility. So I appreciate that being put in there. I know one of the things that was not recommended was a conference room, banquet room, but in here it does say that multi-purpose rooms. What size are we looking at in regards to those rooms?
It would be big enough to hold a board meeting.
Okay.
So a very large conference room, yes.
Perfect. Okay, and then in here it also states that it may be called Sharks Ice at Gilroy. Is that the name, or is that the possible?
That would be the working name right now. Okay. We are hopeful that we will secure a naming partner for our family of rinks, which would include Oakland, San Jose, Fremont, and hopefully Gilroy. So again, it would be a sponsor name plus the city name.
Okay, and I think the final and most important question for you, John, will this facility guarantee a Stanley Cup?
I certainly hope so. I mean, our goal is to expand, as Jimmy said, to grow the game of hockey. And we're not a traditional ice hockey market, right. But that is changing rapidly. Yeah. And we certainly see the benefit for South County's youth to be able to enjoy a wonderful sport that they may not had a chance to previously. So.
And again, no, thank you. And I commend you guys on all your hard work. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else on the council with questions? Well, seeing none. Okay, thank you, gentlemen, and let's go to public comment.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I have 3 public comment cards.
Okay.
The first one is Mark Turner, followed by John Gustafson, and followed by Jane Howard.
All right.
Madam Mayor, council members, as you know, the Gilroy Chamber of Commerce and Visit Gilroy, along with other economic development partners, worked with the city to pass a resolution declaring Gilroy a recreation destination. We became laser focused on 3 key initiatives, which included bringing the Sharks Ice to Gilroy. Well, this has been the hopes and dreams of many in this community for some time. We were able to re-engage the Sharks in discussions 2 years ago after discussions began to wane due to the exit of a couple of key city leaders. With the help of John Gustafson, Jane and I coordinated a tour of the Sharks Ice facility in San Jose with the council's ad hoc committee, along with City Administrator Jimmy Forbes, and the vision of what could be began to take shape. We stand here tonight with an incredible opportunity before us, the opportunity to make good on the council's resolution of making Gilroy a recreation destination. We knew then, by declaring Gilroy as a recreation destination, that we would chart an economic course for our community that has not been seen here for decades. The Gilroy Sharks Ice facility over time will begin to see ice hockey tournaments for youth and adults, figure skating competitions, and other recreational opportunities, driving overnight stays like we've never seen before. According to John Gustafson, what we learned on those visits was that the Sharks Ice facility in San Jose is the #2 driver of overnight stays, second only to the San Jose Convention Center. We have that opportunity before us. The impact on Gilroy's local economy has potential to be significant. The economic development efforts increase opportunity for attracting recreational businesses to our community. Again, driving overnight stays, and increased potential to benefit the downtown and other restaurants in our community. For those reasons, the Gilroy Chamber of Commerce and the Gilroy Economic Development Partnership ask you to approve the term sheet before you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker is John Gustafson, but I believe
he's probably, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lastly will be Jane Howard.
I might steal your thunder again, John. Hi, Jane Howard, Visit Gilroy. I am not even going to contain my excitement, guys. I feel like it's Christmas Eve. I'm opening a gift. And it's the gift for Gilroy. It's like, yes. So let me go with prepared remarks, but I also just want to share, we've been through a lot with COVID. And I was just reviewing the article that I wrote back in January of 21, talking about how the Gilroy Economic Development Partnership had come together. Visit Gilroy and the Chamber brought organizations together and said, we've got to come up with an economic recovery plan for this community, and it can start with 3 initiatives, which you approved and said, let's go. You're doing that. Here we now have a huge opportunity for this community. And as I look down and I see that, Gilroy, we've been through some rough times. We've had to work on our messaging because we've been through those rough times, but we now have another message, and we will have sports tourism in this community. Never have we been able to offer that. So I've already been in conversation, thanks to John's recommendation with Team San Jose, about how we can start working together to work on sports tourism. And I just want to say thank you. This morning in my inbox, as I was opening my email, I was getting my daily prayer from Pastor Rick Warren, and then there are no coincidences. The message was, collaboration makes life easier. Folks, this is all about collaboration. And I am just so excited, so honored. You're going to hear a whoopee if this thing gets passed, and maybe even more, because we have all in this community worked so hard to say Gilroy deserves this. We have an incredible opportunity to be with a team and an organization nationally respected, and to put Gilroy on the map in another way. We don't lose our heritage. We honor and love our reputation. We love our Gilroy Gardens and all that it offers, and the things that we have here. But Visit Gilroy is so proud to be a strong proponent of this particular proposal, and we are so proud to have brought this forward and say, let's get this thing approved tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that conclude public comment?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I received no other speaker cards.
Okay, then
Mayor,
back.
can I move for approval?
I've got Councilmember Bracco who wants to say something.
Yes, I just wanted to say that sitting on the subcommittee has been very informative. I learned more about hockey than I ever really wanted to know. But one of the hardest things of this long ordeal was not being able to go out and tell the public the plans that we had coming to our city. And it's been really informative. I believe in this project. I also was involved with the library, and I see a lot of the same type of stuff going on with this project. That it's going to come in ahead of schedule and under budget, I believe. So with that, I would like to make the motion to approve it.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Bracco, seconded by, is that okay?
That's fine.
I will publicly thank Councilmember Tovar for giving me his seat on the ad hoc committee, because that's when we really started pushing for this, was in March of 2021. Yeah, moving forward, so we could do that. So thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second, so there's no reason to say anything else other than to vote, digital voting. All right, go ahead. You can start. Yeah. Now let's get the voters to approve the design build. Yes, that's what we need to stay in the
And John
budget.
did guarantee a Stanley Cup, right? So it's in the contract, John, a Stanley Cup.
Okay, so that vote was unanimous, -1. All right, 11.4. Introduction of the Comprehensive User Fee Study and first reading of an ordinance amending sections of Chapter 7 of the Gilray City Code entitled Cost Comparison System for Fee and Service Charge Revenue. Harjot.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members, and members of the community. Harjot Sangam, the city's finance director. I'll be presenting the item before you. Equally exciting as the last subject is the 22 Comprehensive User Fee Study and the introduction of an ordinance amending the sections of Chapter 7. All right, a little bit of background. The city's current fee schedule was updated and adopted in 2014, and it does not include any inflationary adjustments. So the fees that were established in 2014 are the fees that we're currently charging. The user fee study was initiated in 2019 but was halted in 2020 due to the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. And as part of the current biennial budget, as well as the work plan, staff included the completion of that study. So over the last about a year, we worked to re-engage with the consultants and the departments to update the analysis. And on May 16th, you received an update on this study, which kind of previewed, what the council and the community can expect to be in this study. So what are user fees? User fees are basically fees that fund programs and services that provide private benefit to individuals requesting them. So these include examples of these fees can include, starting or stopping of a utility service, or the level of effort for a city staff to review and issue a business license, if you will. So these are usually established via a user fee study, with the primary goal is to determine the reasonable full cost of providing that service. And each of those fees or service costs are then calculated, which include, the personnel's salary and benefit costs, as well as direct and indirect costs as well. So for the city of Gilroy, the scope of the study, again, as the title states, it's comprehensive. It encompassed all departments and fee service areas. And the report that's attached to the staff report, the user fee study, the Appendix C kind of outlines the details, which includes a description of the fee, what we're currently charging for the fee, what the new calculated full cost of providing that service is, as well as a recommendation of the new fee. It also contains the change calculated between the current fee and the recommended fee. Talking a little bit about the process and the methodology again, it involves a significant effort, and collaboration between the city staff across all departments, so including department heads, managers, as well as line staff as well. Numerous hours have been expended in compiling the data. So the data that gets analyzed includes the adopted budgets, as well as salaries and benefits, the organizational structure, evaluating the essential services to compile the indirect cost allocation plan. And then we come up with productive billable hours, and then calculate a time estimate to complete those tasks. So for the city of Gilroy, the most of the fees are time-based, unless, again, the fee is capped by legislation, or it follows an industry standard, which for us, it does in the building permit fees. So building permit fees are valuation-based methodology, utilizing the International Code Council's valuation data set, which provides us with the average construction cost per square foot, adjusted for the region for San Francisco. And for recreation fees, the council will recall a new approach was established in 2020, where the general fund will allocate $1.5 million for various programs, and any new programs or activities that are fee-based will be basically recommended as part of the activity guide and with the approval of the city manager. Here's an example of time-based calculations. Essentially, so we have three categories of costs: central services overhead, departmental overhead, as well as the cost of personnel. And all that gets calculated to a fully burdened hourly rate. In this example, you have two employees, employee one with 3 hours of effort with a fully burdened hourly rate of $41.63, and employee two with 0.25 or 15 minutes of an hour with a higher fully burdened hourly rate, which calculates to the total cost of fee service to $154.71. So this time-based calculation example is applied throughout the study across various departments and service areas. So this table provides a summary of key changes. Again, our current fees, are from 2014. So the study did determine, and as we expected, that in general, fees are going to increase across all service areas. We're also adding new fees for services currently performed where a no current fee exists. So those are also being recommended. So in addition to the user fee study and updating the fees, we're also recommending updates to the existing ordinance, Chapter 7, specifically Sections 7.3 through 7.5, to include language that moving forward we will annually adjust the fees based on a consumer price index, otherwise known as CPI, to keep pace with the increases in cost of providing the services, because majority of the city's cost is personnel. And then in addition to that, we're adding some language to provide flexibility to exclude certain types of expenses when we're calculating or preparing these studies. Things such as debt and capital are not directly attributable to cost of providing services in certain cases, so we want to have the flexibility to exclude those costs, and that's industry standard as well. And last but not least, we're updating the language pertaining to types of fee services, products that the city provides. Again, the existing language is outdated, so we took this opportunity to kind of update that and modernize it, as well as kind of bring it to what our current practice is. So in summary, user fees, again, are individuals or groups that receive private benefit, should pay 100% of that cost, so that's what user fees kind of help pay for. In certain situations, subsidization is an effective public policy tool as well. Again, cities use this primarily. A great example for us is our current recreation fee in facilities and park rentals. We do have a categories A through D where we subsidize some of the facility rental costs. So again, this is to encourage participation and promote access to services. We are also recommending, again, the city utilize the inflation factor to annually adjust the fees automatically July 1st. We're also recommending the current language in the code states that we're required to conduct this analysis every year. Best practices every 5 years and with automatic CPI inflations. And then we're also recommending that you introduce the ordinance tonight to effectuate all these recommendations that we're putting forward. As far as next steps, we will be coming before the council on July 5th to conduct official public hearings to adopt the new fee schedule as well as the ordinance as it's been proposed before you tonight. One other thing I'd like to note, I don't have it on my slides, but from a public outreach perspective, we made the user fee study available early June and utilized the city's communications and engagement department. We also conducted 2 community meetings. One was conducted virtual, and another one was in person here at the council chambers. We did have one member of the community present at the virtual meeting, and no members from the community were present at the in-person town hall. In addition to that, any kind of noticing regarding the ordinance or the adoption of the fees has also been put out as well. That concludes my report, and I believe we do have our team of consultants that helped prepare the study as well. Myself and my fellow teammates are here to help answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Okay, council members, do you have any questions before I go to the public? Okay, public comment?
I received no speaker cards, Madam Mayor.
All right, closing public comment. So if there are no questions from council, what I'm looking for is a motion to waive the first reading and read by title only. Okay. All right, that's moved by Councilmember Bracco and seconded by Councilmember Armendariz.
Councilmember Armendariz? Yes. Councilmember Bracco? Yes. Councilmember Hilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Leader Munoz?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks is absent. Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
And Mayor Blankley?
Yes. Okay, so that passed unanimously -1. And then next would be looking for a motion to...
Madam Mayor, I need
Well, he has to read the ordinance.
Oh, sorry, read it.
He has to read the title.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Gilroy amending Section 7.3 7.4, and 7.5 of Chapter 7 of the Gilroy City Code entitled Cost Comparison System for Fee and Service Charge Revenue.
Okay. So, right?
We
Now
need-
I can move on.
Now.
Okay, now I'm,
the ordinance,
right, now
yes.
I need a motion to introduce an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Gilroy amending those sections.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Tovar and seconded by Councilmember Armandaris, and that is a roll call as well.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and that also passes unanimously -1. All right, introduction of new business, item 12, 2022 fireworks public safety mitigation fees. Chief Wyatt is going to be giving us that report. We're making good time, Chief. Keep it up. Okay.
I'll do my best.
Okay.
Well, just to show you how efficient we are, we're not even going to give you a slideshow. We're just going to do a quick
All right.
summary. So, anyway, our recommendation is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Gilroy setting the annual fireworks service fee for impacts on city fire and police services related to the sale and use of safe and sane fireworks pursuant to Gilray City Code Section 10A. Just a real quick on the executive summary. This fireworks service fee is intended to provide funding so the city can take action in two different areas: to reduce the use of illegal and dangerous fireworks that occur in conjunction with the legal use of safe and sane fireworks during the 4th of July celebration. And secondly, to augment daily staffing in preparation for the increase of police, fire, and EMS activity resulting from firework usage. So, in essence, the fee itself helps to fund both fire and police to do both enforcement as well as respond to the increase in call volume that we have. Just a couple things that it does additionally. We have additional dispatchers over the 4th of July weekend. We also staff additional patrol officers, an additional fire engine, as well as additional staffing for existing fire engines. In fact, I'll just add that our most fire-related calls occur right on the 4th of July. And then also includes bulk mailing of English and Spanish notification postcards. Let's see, let me just fast forward. So the cost of the 2022 fireworks mitigation plan is based on the attached worksheet, which totals $51,900.65. This is based on an hourly rate by position. And even though the fees are collected, we don't give the money back. We actually turn it over the following year. So if we don't use the entire funding, then it is deducted from the next year's mitigation. Let's see. As far as alternatives, the City Council could decide to take no action. A fireworks service fee would not be established to provide funding to reduce the use of illegal and dangerous fireworks. And of course, the staff does not expect any net cost to the city as the fee is charged to the vendor and is based on the actual cost of carrying out the plan. And the fee, if approved, the staff would implement this year's illegal and dangerous fireworks mitigation program and apply the fee as authorized. And lastly, the public outreach. We utilize city communications, the engagement manager, and the fire marshal's office to send out postcards to all residents in the city of Gilroy. And in addition to that, community engagement office also releases the same information on media channels previously used for community engagement. And the Deputy Fire Marshal, Jonathan Crick, is with me if you have any questions.
Thank you. All right, council members, do you have any questions of Chief? Okay, Councilmember Armandaris.
Thank you, Chief. What is the difference between last year's amount and this year's?
Last year's amount was approximately $43,000 that we expended or collected.
I think it was about $43,000 on the last, and we have some salary increases, and that mostly salary increases are accounting for the increase.
Okay. And then there's like an app, right, that is used to report illegal fireworks. Would this fee go to funding that as well, or is that separate?
No, the TNT fireworks vendor provides that app as a way. Essentially, illegal fireworks compete with the sale of safe and sane fireworks, and so they provided that app. Unfortunately, there's so much use of that app, the entire map of Gilroy turns red, which essentially leaves it non-functional.
Yeah.
So it's totally separate from this.
They don't charge us for it?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions from council? Okay, seeing none, I will open public comment.
I received no speaker cards, Madam Mayor.
Okay, I will close public comment, and that brings us to possible action for a motion to adopt a resolution setting the annual fireworks service fee for impacts on city fire and police services.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Second.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Romagnos and seconded by Councilmember Tovar, and that's a roll call vote.
Councilmember Almaderas?
Yes.
Councilmember Rocco?
Yes.
Councilmember Hilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Leroy Munoz?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks is absent. Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
And Mayor Blankley.
Yes, and that passed unanimously, -1. All right, moving on to 12.2. Approval of the third operating memorandum to the Glen Loma Ranch Development Agreement. And, oh, okay, I was going to say, I don't see Melissa. Okay, Jimmy's going to be giving us this report.
Thank you, Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a very quick report. This council report is to memorialize an action that was taken by the City Council in 2019, which redirected funding that was intended for development of the McCutcheon Park to funding the city's fourth fire station out by Santa Teresa. That was passed by council, but the agreement was never executed. So tonight's action will have the city accept the dedication of the parcel, assuming that it meets the conditions of an appropriate parcel. That is no contamination, nothing that we're unaware of, and it's suitable for use as a park. In this instance, the Glen Loma Development Corporation would remit to the city $2.3 million for that park dedication, and then the city would in turn at some point in its capital improvement budget that we would be bringing you an update for, give you a plan on how to develop a project, which would most likely be impact funds or something like that. So it relieves Glen Loma from having to develop the park. We received the $2.3 million for it, and the city is then future consideration of a park on its own behalf. So I'd be happy to answer any questions for you. Thank you.
All right, council members, any questions of Jimmy? Seeing none, opening public comment.
No speaker cards, Madam Mayor.
Okay, closing public comment. So then looking for a motion to approve the third operating memorandum.
I'll second.
All
Madam
right,
Mayor.
made by Councilmember Bracco and seconded by Councilmember Leroy Munoz. And this is digital voting. And that passes unanimously, -1. All right, item 13, city administrators reports.
Madam Mayor, just a couple of quick tidbits. I wanted to remind the community that there is a community workshop for the housing element update on June 28th at 6 o'clock. That is conducted on Zoom, so please, if you have thoughts on the housing element update, please attend. And that feedback will be incorporated into a presentation to council later this fall concerning the draft housing element. Wanted to let everybody know that the Christopher High School Aquatic Center opened up on June 14th, and recreation and lap swim is open Tuesday through Sunday from 12 to 5. Monday's closed for maintenance, and there are lessons in the morning and late afternoon. So far, we have 687 registrations for lessons. 87% of those are Gilroy residents. Next, I wanted to remind the public that I conduct a quarterly town hall via Zoom, and I'll be doing that this Wednesday from 6 o'clock to 7:30 until we run out of questions or or such, and that will be, again, Wednesday, June 22nd on Zoom. And then lastly, I just have a quick update concerning the fireworks enforcement program. That program started on June 4th with public education, and that is our preferred method of enforcement. But we will be, especially over the upcoming days when I'm going to be honest with you, it's going to get worse. And the only way we're able to do anything about it is if we receive calls and locations. And so we do have a set aside phone number at 408-846-0350. You can also email the city at fireworks@cityofgilroy.org. And so we'll also be using drones and anything to our ability. And I want to remind people that the first violation is $1,000 and the second one is $2,000. So we expect to do some enforcement and do our best we can with the tools we have. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, Jimmy, you were also going to address the animal disposal thing, or bring that back at another meeting, you mean?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, it's July 5th, not here. Okay, sorry. Making sure. Okay, city attorney's reports.
Yeah, I have no report.
Okay, and closed session, we have none. So as I said at the beginning of the meeting, we are adjourning in celebration of Juneteenth. On June 19th, 1865, more than 2 years after President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, enslaved Americans in Galveston, Texas, finally received word that they were free from bondage. As those who were formerly enslaved were recognized for the first time as citizens, Black Americans came to commemorate Juneteenth with celebrations across the country, building new lives and a new tradition that we honor today. Juneteenth is a day in which we remember the terrible toll of slavery on our country, but it is a day that also reminds us of our incredible capacity to heal and to emerge from our darkest moments with purpose and resolve. On Juneteenth, we commit ourselves to the work of equity, equality, and justice, and we celebrate the centuries of struggle, courage, and hope that have brought us to this time of progress and possibility. That work has been led throughout our history by abolitionists and educators, civil rights advocates and lawyers, public officials, and everyday Americans who have helped make real the ideals of our founding documents for all. And with that, we adjourn at 8:16 p.m. Thank you, everybody.